was a big storm coming, would you?
The storm is coming.
What did he just say?
He said there's a storm coming.
At the heart of the storm is a source of evil that will change their lives forever.
I don't understand why you chose me.
You want to change the world, son. So do I. People want to change the world, don't know how to begin.
Let's start with a smile. Be honest.
It's love! The secret ingredient is love!
Okay, just calm down.
What the hell are we doing here, Harry?
All you do is give me answers. Just give me the right answer.
Tell the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
I can't promise I'll try, but I'll try to try.
We can figure this out, right? We can figure this out, right?
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Worship in the Storm. I'm your host, Emmanuel Kingman, and Mimi's here as well.
Hello.
And our co-host, Andy Rouse. What up, Andy?
What's up, everybody? How's it going, guys?
Hey.
Doing pretty good. It is a Friday night, but I have work tomorrow, so you know that's not always the best, but it is what it is. I was off today. How about things with you? How's everything going?
Oh, pretty good, man. Pretty good. Just getting over the sickness. Everybody's been sick here. Everybody I know in this area is pretty much sick. So good. We're all getting herd immunity, the real kind. So
yeah, a lot of people have been getting sick around here as well, and we've been doing detoxes, parasite detoxes, and we really haven't been getting sick. It seems like everyone else around us is getting it, and we're just like, okay, we're all right now.
that's awesome. Yeah, usually I don't get sick. I mean, if anything, this is the time of year I get sick anyway. I'll get like a couple weeks of like a sinusy infection, head cold type thing, which is kind of what this was, only a little more intense with some weird shit thrown in. But it was confirmed as COVID. So
Yeah.
it was basically a flu. That's kind of how I put it, And I don't feel like it was necessarily any worse than any other flu I've ever had. It just a little bit more, it liked to linger. I'm still
Yeah.
feeling it 2 weeks in,
Did you have it at all? Is this the first time getting like during COVID? Okay.
Yeah, this is the first time, it was bound to get us at some point,
Yeah.
because it's the whole point of living and growing your immune system and strengthening it, just living out in the world. So we were bound to catch it at some point, and I was planning on it anyway. Kind of was hoping to get it over with, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And once you get it over with, it's like, whew.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. For
They got
us, it
some
was
antibodies, and we're good.
Yeah.
right. For us, it was like the body aches.
The body aches.
The Alka-Seltzer really
just
helped us
so
for that.
Tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The body aches were vicious. The chills were
Energy
pretty bad.
drain.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I worked out as soon as I could. I was exercising to get my body moving, to get active and have my cells do their thing. And I
Yeah.
was only down for 2 days, I think. Yeah, I
Nice.
missed work 2 days and then the weekend, and then I was back, and I was like, yeah, I'm all right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hitting everybody differently, it seems,
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
like I
that's-
said to you before the show, my wife and I both have said this thing feels like it keeps trying out random new things on us day to day. Like it just
Yeah.
feels synthetic. It feels like a fake,
Yeah,
a
like-
weird experience for sure.
Like
Well-
the variants are each like a little tweak. A little tweak.
And it's
Yeah.
strange that 5G just rolled out a couple days ago, and I mean the thing with that, it's with the grounding of the airplanes mirroring 9/11 when when the planes crashed on 9/11, mirror effect 119,
Yeah.
and planes aren't allowed to take off. Even maybe that's not even real. It's just a very weird thing that it would be mirrored in that way.
I find that all of our synchronicities and coincidences that, we like to focus on a lot. Thanks, Nomad. It says he hopes I feel better. Thanks, man. Yeah, I find that all these synchronicities, it depends on how far down into your consciousness you are when you're thinking about them, because I think they're all very real and all of it's connected. So
Mhm.
even when people dismiss connections, that's more of a problem than paying attention to too many, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know, we
it's
always
so
get taught to like fear being pattern seekers. Like, oh,
right.
humans always like to create patterns. We always hear that. It's like, well, yeah, why do we have an instinctual need to do that? You know, we always write it off as if it's some byproduct or an accident that we do that and it's a bad behavior. But it's
Right.
literally how we create and maintain our reality.
Yeah, that's
So
life is a
what the fuck?
fractal nature. It's just a
Exactly.
pattern. That's all it is. I mean, on
Mhm.
larger and smaller scales happening over and over in different areas.
Right.
And I mean, that's just facts. That's
So
just the way that it works.
Exactly.
no matter how wacky those coincidences are that some of us conspiracy theorists bring up, even the ones that I don't necessarily, even I roll my eyes at some of them.
Yeah, me
But
too.
if I'm being honest with myself, I'm like, well, I'm not on 5 grams right now, or I'm not deep in a meditation or this or that. Because when you're in that realm, you feel how everything has a reason why
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all connected together. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a feeling you just know. It's
Yeah.
just a knowing, a deep
Hypnosis.
knowing. And the thing with the synchronicities, and we were just talking about this with Andre Mitty yesterday. He
Mhm.
came on the
What up,
podcast.
Andre? Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. He's awesome.
Yeah. And we were
Upcoming
talking
guest
about,
on The Witness as well.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. That's where we met for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
So we were talking about angel numbers and how, that's like the first step of awakening of synchronicities. You start to see numbers on the clock, you see numbers in your bill, it'll just be that way. And you're like, what is this trying to tell me? And then you get lost in that for a little bit and then like you move on.
Mm.
And now I try to avoid numbers because all it is synchronicity. Like on my mileage with my truck and my car, they'll sync up in the same day, so I really try not to look at the numbers. It's just strange.
Yeah, my wife is not haunted by, but followed by the numbers for sure. She like wakes up every night sometimes, every hour, like 222, 333, 444.
Yeah.
She's
Mm.
like, I get it. Is there any other way you could communicate with me? you know, and
Yeah,
she gets a lot of mixed signals. It's like, well, that's telling you have to get up and meditate right then and there. And it's like, well, maybe, but come on, maybe you have a job to go to in 2 hours.
yeah,
Maybe you
yeah.
need to go back to sleep.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Mhm.
Right. I don't even look at them as signs anymore. I'm just like my consciousness just happened to look over at that time. Like I try to discount that one because that's one that you just so easily get caught up in that it's trying like what does it want? What's that number mean? For me, the way that I read the world now is that my dogs or my cats, they'll do something and I'm like, all right, who's going to do this next? And that's what I look for. I look for consciousness to teach me what's about to happen rather than just look for the mathematics behind it all.
Right. Instead of seeing instead of like it's like you're looking at one of those connect the dot pictures and you're seeing all the lines rather than the dots.
Mhm.
The dots are what everybody goes, "Oh my god, what do all these things mean?" But take a step back and kind of see where
Yeah.
it's going kind of.
Unfocus your eyes and you can see the lines.
Yes.
There it is. Yeah. I
Yeah.
always say it's kind of like right off to the side.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in other news, you just hit your 1 year mark on
Mhm.
podcasting. Congratulations, my friend. A
Thanks,
big round
man.
of applause to
Yes.
you.
Yeah, 1 year of podcasting, 56 episodes, well, standard deep share episodes anyway. There's a bunch more of all of our stuff and everything else,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but yeah, it's been an awesome year. It's been possibly the best year I've ever had. So, I'm hoping this one is even better.
Yeah.
It's been really fun and I appreciate everybody that's been listening and watching and supporting me and it feels great. It's awesome.
Yeah. Nomad said congrats and he put some clapping hands up there for you.
Hell yeah, man.
Isn't it
Thank you.
funny how these years are the best years for some people?
Yeah, I remember hearing high school
Mhm.
was supposed to be the best years of our lives, but I
Yeah.
don't trust any of those people that said that, so
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. 2020 and 2021 have been the best 2 years of my
Yeah.
life.
Agree completely.
Yeah.
As challenging and uncertain as they have been,
Oh,
oddly
yeah.
enough, they've felt the most
Fulfilling.
enriching and fulfilling. And
Yeah.
and I've always had a mentality, and I'm not sure if I was, subconsciously pushing myself like this just without knowing about it, but I always kind of say every time I have a birthday, I'm always like, life just keeps getting better. And it became a mantra without knowing it was really even a mantra over time. You know what I mean? And it's just been that way.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that bad things haven't happened. I mean, I'm stressed out every other week sometimes, but overall, every birthday, I somehow am able to look back and go, this was better than the last one. Everything
Yeah.
was better than the last one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just good to have that mentality, I guess, or try to have that. Spark it, get it going, turn it
Yeah.
into a pattern, make it your mentality.
For sure. I think that the chosen or the elect, as the Christian, uh, what's that? The prophecy or whatever. That's what they call it. Those people are the ones who are having the best time because we're awakening and we are taking back what is humanity's that has been taken from us. And
Mhm.
we're just leading the way. So those I mean, there's a mixture of things of why people are having horrible times. I mean, there's so many different reasons why things could be going poorly for somebody at this time. But I think the people who are the elect or the chosen, they're having the best time because it's coming to fruition. This has been prophesied for, I mean, who knows how long time's actually been, but in all of our ancient stuff, it's always talking about this point in time, all of them that we're saying, the awakening, however they call it, in whatever religion or spiritual practice, this is that time. And
Yeah.
we're having a good time, and it's only getting better and better because
Yes.
we're reaching our potential.
Mhm.
We've broken free from being stagnant and being the building blocks of society. And now we are becoming the capstone, and we will lead society out of this direct that we've been in.
Yeah, I like the way you put that, you know,
And having a
um
grandbaby coming soon.
Yeah.
This year's
Yeah.
gonna be so great.
No,
wow,
I'm gonna be a granddad, dude.
that's awesome.
I'm so excited. I'm getting
Are you
more
gonna
excited the closer it gets. I'm like, it's coming, it's coming.
are you gonna be grandpa or
Uh,
papa or
Happy.
He
pappy?
wants to be Pappy.
Pappy Emmanuel. I love it.
Yeah. Well, actually, so it's Greek. I picked the Greek term. It's papuli is
Oh,
the
yeah.
formal term, and then pappy will just be, the
Nice.
everyday.
That's great, man.
I was gonna keep Mimi, but I'm not. I couldn't. When I went to sign the card at the baby shower, I was like, this is weird. I need a new name. I need a new name.
Yeah. So Pappy and Grammy.
Yep.
Grammy and Pappy.
Grammy.
That's awesome.
I don't feel
Yeah.
like a Grammy yet, but I can't wait.
That's exciting, man. That's a day in my future at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's not my
Yes.
daughter, it's my stepdaughter, it's Mimi's
Right.
daughter. She's actually, closer in age to me than Mimi is.
Oh, a
cool.
nugget there.
Hey, that's cool,
Yes.
man.
Yeah. So, anyway, what is going on? Were you about to say something or
I can't remember what we were talking about. We were talking about something,
the
but
best year of our
Best
life?
year.
oh, yeah, that's I don't
Mhm.
know. It's just yeah, I probably was gonna say something, but who knows? It's lost in the ether.
Uh,
You see any good
Sorry,
movies lately?
we just did what did we just watch?
We were trying to find the 355 just to see what the buzz is all about.
The
But
Matrix 4, we could talk about that a little bit because
Good.
it's interesting. So I want to hear your take on it because I saw that you weren't too happy with it. So go ahead.
Okay. On the surface of things, as strictly a movie fan, I was disappointed in that it felt like Keanu must have intentionally decided that Neo now just acts exactly like Keanu Reeves. Whereas Neo, we all used to accuse him of being an overactor in a lot of cases, even when we liked him. I loved Keanu
Keanu.
Reeves in everything he's done, even when he's been a little cheesy or over the top. I've loved him. And Neo was a personality, a very specific, trying to be tough, but a soft core, and he had a lot of angles to him that Keanu, I think, did on purpose in a way, because he's a good actor and was becoming a better actor. And now he's hit Christopher Walken stage of his life where he's just himself now in everything.
Yeah, like
Where
Tom
John
Cruise.
Wick is just he's just like John Wick is just the fast version of him. It's like there was no Neo left. And even in those sequels to the original Matrix, even though the character was now in gnosis and understood more, he had more confidence and wisdom about him, he still was that young, open-minded, kind of curious soul. And I didn't see any of that personality that Keanu pushed out 20 years ago on the screen this time. I saw Keanu Reeves kind of winking at the camera, in my opinion.
I agree with that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's point one. Point two was just the awkward story itself. I don't know. I wanted to really like the inclusion with video games, and I think there are some angles in there that we could probably talk about. You give me your opinion on it, and it'll probably spark something in me as well, because I'm obsessed with I love video games. I always have. It's been a way of relaxation for me, of thoughtful inquisition, to all kinds of different angles of thought. I love video games. And even now, with my psychedelic mind or whatever that I've combined with my like of video games over the years, it's like, okay, there's something to explore there. But the additive of video games in the way they did it, I don't know. It was very odd. And I just felt like I need to see it like a second and third time, I think, even though I don't really like it, because I think there was a lot there that I'm going to realize seeing it again and again.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of stuff there that I'm staring at the screen. I'm looking back at Kate going, something's happening here, but my brain's not working around it yet. But I don't like what's happening here.
Yeah, I need to see it a second or third time.
Yeah, certain things that were going on. I'm like, this is saying something, and I can't quite put my finger on it right now, and I don't like it.
Did you see it in theaters, or did you watch it at home?
I watched it at home.
I fell asleep in the theater in the middle a little bit.
Well, I asked because when we went, the theater was full, but I guess they must have been going to Spider-Man because
the parking lot was full.
Yeah,
is
the
what
parking
he meant
lot.
to say.
Yeah, our theater was just us and an older couple, so it was weird. And I heard somebody else talking on a podcast, and he was like, "Yeah, I was the only one there, so it was like extra weird. It felt like it was directly for me because no one was in a movie theater." And it's like, how do movie theaters even stay open? Like nobody goes anymore. Hell,
that's so weird. I know, and I love the theater. It's just laziness and exhaustion, and
it's like $100 for popcorn.
Yeah, dude. If you want to have a real fun, gross, unhealthy movie experience, it's like $40 for two. No, like maybe more if it's like two people.
It was only $25 because we caught the the matinee. Yeah,
I went.
Well, you are about to be grandparents. It's appropriate to see the matinee.
Touche, my friend.
I want to go to Nomad's comment over there because I know Todd has lots to say about that.
He said, was it the future you and Mimi? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, because you talked about this a lot. Because when I said I fell asleep, you had a completely different view.
Yeah, let Andy. I want Andy to finish his take on it before
okay.
We
get into it.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear your takes because it'll probably like I said, spark more of what I'll remember from the film.
Yeah.
But one thing I really I'm torn about. I'm torn about how I feel about the philosophy behind it in general, is this idea that they are pushing into the Matrix, which of course they're trying to do more of them. That ending was clearly a
Oh
setup for
yeah.
another one where Trinity's going to be the superhero and Neo's going to be like, "Yeah, take me with you."
Well, and Merovingian, he actually said that they're setting up a sequel at his one scene. He said they're setting
Right.
up a second sequel or whatever.
Exactly, and of course they would tell us that, you know.
Mhm.
Shit, where was I going? Yeah, so, they decide to bring in this theme that we need to, and I know you and I touched on this, we need to, reflect and reconsider what our side really means.
Yeah.
Because apparently Neo's amazing sacrifice from the original films has turned him into like Wreck-It Ralph level superhero in the video game world because some machines also have woken up
Mhm.
to the corruption and the evil of the machines. And there's a lot to say about that whole
Mm.
thing on good and bad, I think, in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
Um,
That was definitely weird that it was we have to change the definition of our side because now the machines have become sentient and want to help the people. They realize what they were doing and they don't want to do that. It seemed
mm,
like a desperate last plead to don't make everything cease to exist. You know, like they're begging God almost like don't kill us all because of some bad apples, you know.
I know it's weird. It's like Apple computer saying this. It's very weird.
Yeah.
It's like because it begs the question, are we gonna just completely leave out the argument that of like the hard problem of consciousness itself and ignore the question of are they even really sentient? Is that even possible? Because while, many people are running wild with AI and think that way, what's what's the framework of deciding whether or not it's going to be true or not? Whether this artificial intelligence is considered sentient? Like, are we going to be changing the definition of sentience, or eh, it's a big it's a conundrum in that one scene to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. No,
Overall though, yeah, at the from what I can remember, yeah, other than that, it kind of felt like this was Trinity's movie more than it was Neo's, almost. And or at least they shoved that in as much as they could, maybe in write-ups and edits or something. But the ending was clear that, you know, it's almost like it's going to be a new world. I don't know, man. Yeah,
yeah,
let's go
like
on. Let's get to your takes on it because I want to remember more of the film. I think I
okay.
blocked a lot of it out.
Yeah, yeah, I forgot a lot of it too when I was listening to the podcast talking about it. I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that part." So, I think I probably will have to watch it again. So, for me, like we all see ourselves in different things. We're the main character of our own story. So for this, it really hit home for me as oh, okay, this is for me. We share the same initials: Thomas Anderson, Todd Armstrong.
Mm,
Change the name, Neo, Emmanuel. You know, so that whole thing right there, it's like okay, you know, I see this is about me. 20 years ago, I went back to sleep. I knew 9/11 something was up and then I was given the blue pill. I was taking Xanax a lot. The blue
mm,
pill, 30s, perk 30s, which are also blue. I was given the blue pill and I was an addict for a while and I forgot everything and then I had to get off of it. And also Mimi, if you know, her real name isn't Mimi and the same thing with Trinity, her name was Tiffany and she didn't like the name Tiffany uh, and Mimi doesn't like her given name as much, so that's why she's called Mimi. So it was like I saw this whole angle there, and it's also, you know, helped me realize who I am when we linked up. Like when we met each other, there was just something there that we didn't let go of, and I stepped out of the matrix by moving 750 miles to Georgia. that was his leap of faith moment, so to speak. So there's all these synchronicities that lined up. So I really connected with it. But I agree with what you said about Keanu, and I took it as that he was old, supposed to be playing old anyway. I don't know if this was purposely done or anything, but he was playing as if he didn't have it in him anymore. And that's, I think, why Trinity became the hero, because Neo just didn't have the belief. And because Neo is the main character, then God had to write in that someone would have to save him. And who else would it be but the person that he saved before? So there's this thing where, all right, you have the Merovingian, and you're familiar with the Merovingian line being Jesus's line. Okay, well, I think
Blue Bloods.
Yeah, I think that the Merovingian line was some necromancy that Pontius Pilate did some necromancy and made a spirit come back into the body that died in some sense, and there was now this fake person pretending to be Christ, and so he moved to France and had children and whatever. So what the Merovingian represents, he comes in and he's saying that you stole my life, you made this happen, and it's a really important part of the movie, and it's such a small part, but he says to him, you killed art and culture. So you got to look at Neo as Jesus, right? So that's how the whole movie's set up. This is the whole thing's Christian, actually, the way that they do it.
Always.
Yeah. So the Merovingian is saying, you, Jesus, killed me, which is not just art and culture. He's representing himself as art and culture, but he was this savior that everyone looked to, that they treated him like a king, right? And then you also have to go back to when the passport expired in 9/11, right? In the original one. So Neo being alive past 9/11 means that the reset didn't take place the way that it was supposed to. So this brings up the whole reset issue that we're in right now. So Neo being alive killed the reset that was supposed to take place. And yeah, so now we get into who the analyst is. The analyst is Lucifer, and the adversary is Smith. Satan is Smith.
Right.
So you have the Trinity, the trio of Antichrist are all represented. You have the analyst, Lucifer, Satan is Smith, and then the fake Christ is the Merovingian. So they're all represented in this, and it all revolves around Neo. And Smith actually helps Neo stay alive because Smith is part of the machine. He's the adversary, and he needs Christ because he doesn't exist without Christ. He's obsolete. So the time doesn't apply to him. So when the analyst stops time and moves it around, he can still, that's how he helps him, because it doesn't apply to him because he's part of the machine. So when the analyst made it, he didn't make it to stop the adversary. He only made it to stop the good guy. So then Smith ends up helping him. But the analyst, Lucifer, still always needed Jesus because it was the true love. Without Jesus, and the Trinity is the church, or just you could say the female perspective. So Jesus needs to be close to the church, but couldn't be with them. It had to be at arm's length, because if they ever get together, then it kills the Matrix. And if they're ever not there, then nobody has hope and nobody cares to participate in the Matrix. So he had to keep them close, but he couldn't let them touch. And now that he's still here, or, Neo's still here past the time of expiration, then that means that they're going to merge and the machine's going to end up breaking down if, they won, essentially, which is weird because Mimi and I got together. She moved away 20 years right before 9/11. She moved away, and we're from the same little county, and then we find each other.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so it's again, it's
20 years later.
yeah, it's this whole thing
Whirlwind.
is going on.
You know, it's funny, your synchronicity, about going back to sleep, I
Mm.
didn't even consider myself, and I have talked about my story many times on many podcasts about how I was wide awake, yeah, a long time ago and tripping balls all the time and
Mhm.
talking conspiracies and aliens. And then when there was no community around, when no one believed, when I was the crazy guy, at that time in my life, I just decided to put my whole self into a bottle and watch the world burn on my front lawn with in a lawn chair. Like that was my mentality. And that was
Nice.
me going back to sleep, watching the world burn, knowing that it's burning, and just trying to party with everybody that doesn't realize it's burning.
Yeah.
And yeah, this pandemic woke me up too. And
Mhm.
oddly enough, my wife and I, found each other 6 years ago. But oddly enough, our story's interesting and weird too, because we knew each other long ago. And there's a synchronicity about how we finally got together. And it's interesting. You made me think about that, how,
That's neat.
often, of
Mhm.
course, the Jesus story, the Christ story, the hero with a thousand faces, however you want to look at this, of course, you can kind of see your life reflected right in it. And it's uncanny, and it happens seemingly with everybody that, gets there.
Yeah. Yeah, and so with the when I was realizing all this, I'm like, "Oh, this is about me." This is God has made this for me, and it's not just me, of course, it's many people, but when I'm watching in that way, it really meant something to me, and I start putting these pieces together. I'm like, "Oh, that's Lucifer, that's Satan, that's the fake Antichrist, that's Jesus, that's Mary," which is another thing. Mimi's real name is Margaret Mary. It's a kind of a close thing, and we have the feminine. All these spiritual communities, they always talk about the feminines rising. It's the feminine's turn. That's how it's all represented, which
Mhm.
is you know it's true. I don't know to what degree it's programmed in everybody or not, because they're the Wachowski brothers became the Wachowski sisters.
Right, and only
uh,
one of them's involved this time around, right?
oh, was it? I thought they were both in it, or both part of it. I didn't know there's only one.
Yeah, there was some article like, "Why the other one didn't," I'm just, I didn't even wanna read it. I just
uh,
can't. I can't, 'cause I don't even trust what any of them write, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, so I did think that it was kinda weird. It was weird how they made Morpheus. I understood it. I think Lawrence Fishburne probably didn't wanna do it, or
That's the thing. We have
Yeah,
2
that
actors
ruined
that
it.
they literally had to build part of this story
yeah,
around, and even if maybe it worked out to the story's benefit in some ways, maybe we could spin it that way, but they had
Smith
to
and
make up
Morpheus.
for 2 award-winning actors that decided to not come back, you know?
Yeah,
And I feel like Keanu is always gonna come back. He's always down. He'll
yeah,
make 1,000 John Wicks, not for the money, just for the fun of it, and
yeah,
because his fans like it. That's how he is. So, I expect him, doesn't matter, he's A-list, but then you look at Larry Fishburne, come a long way since Larry Fishburne, but, these guys and Hugo, whatever the hell his name was, I can't remember his name,
yeah, I
but
don't know his name.
those 2 are pretty intense actors to turn that down, it's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as being a 4th movie and the first one in 17 years or whatever it's been, I think that the storyline was decent enough. I mean, it's as good as you're gonna get out of anything
Yeah,
in
it
the
was
way
probably
that they
better.
transitioned.
Yeah, it's probably better and more trippy and more interesting than any movie I've seen over the past year or 2. Now, I'm sure some people might scream through the screen at that, like, "There's plenty of better," I'm sure. But, it was made, I think they knew that, "Hey, we can't phone this in, 'cause everyone's gonna be furious if The Matrix gets phoned in." So, they did a decent job across the board as, like, a whole movie, I'd say,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, so, yeah, I like the relatability it had for me, and especially when it came out and we were in the mountains, on vacation, got to see it in that theater with just another older couple. So when she was falling asleep, now I'm always having psychic things happen to me. I mean, I can't go anywhere. I can't go a minute in the day without things happening to me. So when I'm feeling things, I wasn't surprised that she told me she was falling asleep because I'm feeling that she was being upgraded. I had no idea. I didn't look over. She didn't appear to be sleeping to me. I'm just looking at the screen, but I could hear and understand that she was being upgraded at that moment. And then she told me she was sleeping. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's how it happens. Like you get put to sleep. You can't really handle it. The etheric surgery that's what I experience, and many people do. But people talk about getting zapped. That all of a sudden they have to go close their eyes and go take a nap because you're going to be transitioned in a way that you can't experience it being awake. But I practice being awake in this sleep world so often that I just experience it being awake because there's not really a difference to me anymore. So
Is that like lucid dreaming almost? Is that relatable at all?
it's probably the mirror effect of lucid dreaming. It's probably like, like when it's not that I can't tell the difference between sleeping and awake. Obviously, I can. And I stopped doing drugs and everything because I was like, okay, I can't smoke weed. And then I stopped smoking Delta 8. I stopped taking the Delta 8 gummies, because I was like, okay, that's what's doing it to me. But it's not. I don't do anything anymore. If I exercise, then I'll have to close my eyes and bow my head, and then I'll feel. If I read the Bible, it's just anything that I do, really, it just really connects me. I have these crazy visions, but I've cleaned out my vessel so much that I don't need to put anything in it in order to have these great experiences.
Yeah, my good friend who's a long time deep practiced meditator, yeah, we used to work together, and he'd just like walk by me and just be like, I'd be like, "You all right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just having a moment." Just always having a moment, because and he's this guy that was so practiced that he would slip into his meditative state extremely easily, and the things he would come back with just blew my mind. It was really inspiring because he was always so humble. So when I was skeptical, he was the right person to kind of push me in that right direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see what else. What other movies have I been
Have
seeing?
you seen Don't Look Up?
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So I saw Don't Look Up, and I really loved it. And I thought I was going to hate it. I was mad at it, just like I was mad at Squid Game. I didn't even want to look at it.
I
Didn't
haven't
even
seen
watch
that.
Squid Game. I didn't, again, as a movie freak lover, I'm one of those guys, like, people talk about it too much. I'm like, maybe I don't even want to ever. It's just I'll hear about the whole thing eventually, you know. But yeah, with this, I just reluctantly put it on, and it was a masterpiece, start to finish, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The allegory that it stood for, which I think many people will look at the allegory in a number of different ways. It's very much a mirror, like a funhouse mirror sort of situation with that movie, because I'm sure a lot of people would watch it and see the metaphor as the asteroid or the comet coming as the COVID-19 virus or something, or the end of us through a horrible, scary pandemic. I saw it the total opposite way, which was of course the mandates, the vaccine, total control. But of course, you step back and you realize it's really not about these particular materialistic issues. It's really about what's happening to us, to our consent, to our spirit, to everything that's going on now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys have seen it, the whole thing, or at least, okay, cool. And I know it's been clipped and advertised on YouTube, the scene where Leo finally has enough of it and loses it on national television, is just starts screaming, "The president is fucking fucking lying. And I
Yeah.
think we're all gonna die. Like I don't know if this administration has lost its mind. The speech was epic. I think as weird and creepy as Leo seems to be, the man can fucking act and always has. And that was, oddly enough, in my opinion, one of the best performances he's given in a very long time. Meanwhile, it's one that's like not being talked about at all when it comes to awards or anything. So that's an interesting one. But yeah, I loved it. I think the allegory stood for people not paying attention and not educating themselves and being oblivious because of all the distractions, regardless of where your line in the sand is when it comes to what's going on out there right now. You know, it was really a big allegory about how far we've drifted.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it was. I found it interesting. I think Leo did a good job acting, like you said, and what's her name? The lead actress.
Yeah,
She did
Jennifer
good.
Lawrence was really
Yeah.
good too. Yeah.
Yeah, but they made her look weird. You know, they chopped up her hair in a weird way.
Dude, they made her look kind of like punk, I
Yeah.
guess, like neo punk, and I just kind of loved all the insults that Jonah Hill was throwing at her.
Yeah,
I was, what if we have to use the bathroom? Oh, we're gonna roll down some newspaper for you, no problem.
yeah. I think see, it was weird because it was like an allegory for COVID a little bit, and they were making out Jonah Hill and
Me and the sun.
being
Yeah.
Trump's son, and the president was Trump, and
Right, they
but
switched it.
yeah, but the thing that really bothered me about that is that they said that the people following the president were saying, "No, don't look up." They're saying, "No,
Right.
just trust what the president's saying," when we're actually saying, "No, don't like okay, whatever Trump's saying, that's one thing, but look, we want you to look." We're not saying don't look, we're saying look. So it really bothered me that they tried to switch it.
Yeah, well, it was almost poetic. It's almost like at this point you got to like almost appreciate the beauty in the way they swindle artists into making these movies for them, because it was just so brilliant the way they did that. How the ones telling you to ignore everything was actually, if you're trying to directly compare it to this current situation, of course they're trying to switch it on us and make Trump and all them be the ones. Of course, we can't forget about Warp Speed. Let's not forget. He was the one that's been pushing these vaccines, and without him, they would have taken a lot longer to get to everybody, and he's still pushing them like crazy, and boosters. But yeah, regardless of that, it's interesting that we can make that direct comparison so easily and go, we want to align ourselves with that crazy administration, but they were saying the right thing at the time. This movie switched it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like we don't want to align ourselves with it's that's why I called it poetic, because it's
Yeah.
like they knew that a lot of us were gonna, they switched it on us. Where the good guys are the bad guys. It's like, yeah, but none of them are the good guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
The good guys are represented as these humble scientists that are just getting trampled constantly in their lives, distracted, manipulated, and ruined,
Yeah.
So it was interesting how they did that. I loved that and of course I think that's why this movie is so not really in award territory, because it was kind of an assassination on Republicans. If people didn't get the bigger metaphor, it was clearly just shitting all over the Trump administration and shit like that,
Yeah.
and that relationship and all that.
Well, how about if it's also is it foreshadowing for when Kamala Harris becomes president and an asteroid is actually coming?
Oh God.
I see a little bit of foreshadowing with that as
Yeah.
well, and she would have some dumb kid as in all these different meetings that would be doing stuff like that. So I see it in multiple ways. I'm trying to figure out what's happening, but yeah, it was. I mean, it would be great if scientists were starting to do. I mean, if that was a real scenario, and I think it might be. You know, I don't believe rocks fly through space because I don't think deep space is a real thing. but is there a possibility that something is coming down, is descending down from other realms, that and it does come downwards like that, and they're trying to stop it? And do I think that they would be stupid enough to try to profit off of it, because like Elon Musk is doing all the space link stuff and
Right.
all that? I think that's a possibility, but what is coming, I think, is probably judgment. And that's what they want to stop. So I don't know that there would be a rock hurling from space, but I think that there is some kind of thing going on in our sky in
I don't know. They can
in
put
the
suns
near
up there and
decade.
moons up there. They can just throw them
Yeah.
up, you know, throw 3 moons up, throw a sun up.
Yeah, with
Well,
China.
So, so to me, as someone who kind of, my curiosity is still wide open. Let's see, we got a comment from Nomad. NASA is expecting an asteroid to come very close to Earth in 29. They are calling it Apophis. Well, yeah, Apophis has been around for a long, long time, and it's passed by us many, many times. And yeah, it's going to come closer. I don't know how much closer, even
Does it do
hypothetically.
circle us?
It does.
Yeah.
Well, so that's what I was about to say. Where my curiosity about the shape of the Earth and all that whole argument is so open-minded right now at this point. I'm wide open. I'm okay with anything, including the idea that maybe some of what's up in our skies is real. And, you know, it's kind of like Stanley Kubrick's trick with the fake backdrops. He mastered the art of putting foreground with a fake background. The foreground is real, the background is fake. So, okay, let's go with the idea that deep space isn't real. Doesn't mean we can't have a working situation going on a local level,
Right.
local just being much bigger than we think or something. But let's just play with the idea that all of these things are real right now. Yeah, there's multiple objects, you know, even if everything's just going around us, there's shit that comes back around over and over again, like the Taurid
Right.
meteor stream. The reason why we have all of our scientists, even the guys that get shadow banned for years and discredited by mainstream, like Randall Carlson, talking about the geology behind the impacts on the Earth and stuff like that. There's patterns that this has happened over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you can take that and go down every possible rabbit hole all the way out to simulation theory. Is that the end game? Is that the kingpin that just comes in and knocks it out once the simulation gets too out of control? You know, you could literally go into the unreal, the extra weird, the normal geology and physics that we even sometimes can still accept here and there. There's stuff going on, but there is a lot of fear out there too. There's a lot of, it's a hard mix of
Right.
well, this is some real science, but then this fear mongering over here that makes it sound really scary. Well, they're using this comet per se in this story. Meanwhile, this comet is, yeah, it's coming by, but it's not going to come within, you know, 4.5 million miles of Earth, and that's still considered a near miss. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's weird. A lot of it seems to be written in even in crop circles. There's this whole theory behind this series of crop circles that all suggest a time frame, which is late 2020s, with the Earth missing from the solar system as symbolic, like it gets knocked out by some. So this whole thing, and there's many authors that I really like who like to constantly bring up that fact in every interview they do about this is coming and this is what everything's saying. And that,
are they pushing that for a reason though? You know,
that's what I'm saying. You know, I like these authors that I'm talking about, but at the same time,
Question everything.
Yeah, you kind of got it. It's like, okay, it's weird that a lot of things do line up in the past with some cosmic events that are going on now. Just the fear part is misplaced and doesn't line up with at least what we're being told. But if you want to go the other way with that, it means we are going to get hit and they're lying to us about it. But that means no one's got a telescope that can look up and see this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting that, so the way that I see everything is that it's a fractal nature of life, like we were saying, and that the shape of the Earth has to be like a human in some sense. It's on a grand scale, but it has to be that way. All of creation is that way. We're
Yeah,
the image of God.
there's something about it that
Yeah.
is the perfect configuration. Yeah.
Right. And when we look at our cells in our body, they could not escape our body and be alive.
Right.
That they would die. So we couldn't escape this place and be alive.
I like
We
that.
would, yeah, we would have to grab onto something else. We would have to somehow become something else so that we could uh, leave this place. So when I see like there's these near Earth objects and all, I think that they're on an outer ring of this fractal nature. Like I'm a human, but there's another human that I'm within that's larger than me, and then there's one that's larger than that, and it's not, each one isn't hugely different until eventually it is. Eventually, it's the shape of the Earth, and we all gather and we're the cells of it. So outside of the Earth is another larger level, I believe, so that there's objects probably moving all throughout, just like we have things in our human bodies that are moving all throughout. So
Yeah,
I
man, I
I
like
think that,
that.
yeah, and I think that things are always moving in these patterns because that's just what they do. Like if we're around a head, if we're the head, right? Then something's just going around and around, and maybe it's elongated because we're in an elongated head, so it goes oblong shaped or egg shaped, and rather than just being a sphere. So
Yeah,
uh,
man.
that's like Apophis coming back to us. That's how I really see it. Is it's something like that, and I think that there is something that's coming that may shatter our firmament. Uh, I don't know exactly what it is, and when you were talking about Randall Carlson, see, there's a lot of different people who have a different take on it, and not being comets or meteors, and they say that it's actually sun rays
Mm.
that cause these nanodiamonds. That it's actually,
Scarring.
yeah, yeah, and the scarring, yeah, that it's actually more likely that it was just the sun, because I think the sun blasts down every so often and raptures humans, maybe separates the wheat from the tares, however it occurs.
Mhm.
There's different terms for it, but I think that that happens, so that that's what causes these scarrings, because I think the sun is within our firmament. I don't think
Mm.
it's outside of it. And what Mimi was saying, super weird that China has the artificial sun going and has 3 artificial moons and is
Right.
blocking out the sky. And I really think that they're doing that because I, with my connectedness to Jesus, what I've been picking up on and been saying for 2 years now is that I think judgment is coming at the end of this decade. And I think that they're afraid to be judged, so they're doing their best to block him out. And when he comes to judge on the whatever the white throne of judgment, or however it's termed.
Yeah. I wonder about that often, about our big cabal, the evil people out there. We talk about uh revelation of method often with the karmic angle and everything, but we don't often talk about the idea that they are bully children who are slowly getting caught in a lie, and they're just trying to live it up before they finally get caught, perhaps something along those lines. Where I think I've talked about it here too, about Project Looking Glass. With I think we talked about that on an earlier episode of Worship in the Storm, about that ex-military guy saying, yeah, they know that their demise is inevitable, and
Yeah.
all they can do now is just play as many moves as they possibly can before checkmate.
Dude, I just got something yesterday
Yeah.
about this, that I was connecting with an energy, and what it was telling me, what this energy was saying was, why would I change when he'll show me grace whenever, right? So when he comes back, I'll just change my mind then. But until then, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Dude, and this, okay. Did you get that? No, you couldn't have, because you've changed your life completely over the past couple of years. So you were just witnessing that idea. Meanwhile, you were probably hearing my fucking thoughts, because I battle that shit all the time. Being even wide awake, as I always say, you know, I mean, you can be plenty aware of this world and not still not there yet. You know what I mean? It's constantly, it's just a progress thing, you know, and I'm constantly working towards it, and I'm constantly trying to avoid saying that shit about my bad habits or this or that. It doesn't, you know, you don't have to necessarily, like, not everybody has to tie it to Jesus necessarily, but there, so many people out there are saying that shit, and they're just avoiding this judgment at the very end of it all. Like, well, and I think it's so cosmic for us and so central and so big, because it's our life, that it's not just some little instance in our life that we're white lying our way out of. It's, you're lying to yourself, and you're going to have to face yourself at the end of this thing, and God, whatever. Like, but that's the thing. Like, it's such a great metaphor that, you know, shit, you're lying to when you lie to other people, you're only lying to yourself. You know what I mean? The only one is seeing it is right here. And so, yeah, I resonate with that fear, that lack of wisdom right there, because that shit is a bad voice in a lot of people's heads, trying to just postpone the inevitable.
Yep.
Yeah. And, you know, it's very strange that someone would take that stance. Now, this energy that's telling me this, saying I don't have to change until then. What I heard rebuttal to him was that's not going to work. It's what is actually inside you that counts. It's your words are meaningless. It's you're going to be judged for what's in you. And if you don't have it in you, then you're going to not move on with us. You're going to burn in hell eternally. You're going to cease to exist. However it works out, it's those who have it in them will move on to another stage, eternal life, and those who don't will not. So
let's talk about that. So this is a conundrum I come to a lot, because it feels like, it feels like that's what all the religions are possibly talking about. You know what I mean? Where even when you think about burning eternally in hell, you almost think of it as like burning off the remnants of something that, you know, it's like ironically, the only example I can think of is a rocket blasting to higher atmosphere, and all of the shit that can't handle it just burning off. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's like God is refining something,
purifying fire.
Oh, it's a constant refinement back to the one or something like that.
So
it's weird.
What I get on the lake of fire, and I've actually dealt with the lake of fire a few different times in meditations and helping people out with different situations, is that it's a tear in the fabric of our reality. That if you were to just be able to cut a hole right in front of your face through the fabric of reality and were to open it, it would be some sci-fi. It would look like a lake of fire that you cut open, and now it's burning, and then you have to put it back together. So when I see that the lake of fire, I see they get thrown out of our existence, that they can't hang in this fabric of reality anymore, so they go down lower. Now, I think that they probably go back to stage one of consciousness, which is being a dead planet or dirt or whatever is minerals. That first layer of consciousness for millions and millions of years.
That's called suffering.
That's eternal. And that's eternal suffering, because it doesn't end until that whole, all that dirt wakes up, and the dirt doesn't wake up until the rest of consciousness wakes up. So it's like an eternal thing. You have to work your way up from that. Then you have to be all the plants. then you have to be all the animals, then
Interesting.
you get back to humanity and you get a chance again. So
Yeah, I
think
do feel that. I feel that there is some sort of cycle process that, you don't just get to jump back into this one. I don't think there's I don't think there's a soul trap. I don't know. Of course, I contradict myself too because some of my experiences do feel like very close to what Alan Watts says in one of his little speeches. He kind of suggests that, imagine, well, he says you, but I can even say it as like, imagine God is endlessly dreaming. And, eventually he gets bored and he wants a surprise. So you end up where you are now, thinking it's all real and taking it seriously when it's not, or something along those lines. And I know that that's not the whole story, because this is a very real experience. But at the same time, those two, for me, it's not between atheism and God. It's more this idea of absolute, utter importance in religious practices in order to ascend and get it right or be burned away, versus this other idea of, and like I said, I've spoken to many near-death experiencers who come back and just say, all the worry falls away. You just wake up. It's just, so I'm constantly in my personal life very torn by that. And I think that's maybe that division in my head is that voice saying, well, you can make up for this later or something like that. Because it's, why am I asking the question? I'm asking the question of, do I have to take shit seriously or not? That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Do I have to take shit? Do I really have to meditate more than I do? Do I really have to do this? But do I have to break through this? Do I have to learn this ancient art before I fucking die, or else I'm doomed? Or do I just wake up and all the worry falls away and we are all part of God and blah, blah, blah? Like, I don't think anyone has it right. I think a lot of us have some really solid ideas that we need to keep putting on the table and keep aligning with what is fitting together, and still keep shedding away the ideas that aren't fitting anymore. And still, you know what I mean? Because it does seem to be, there's something there. I don't know what you think of that.
And I've had these experiences too, that, oh, I'm having this experience again, that this is happening again. But the more that I connect, the more I realize that that's when I'm tapping into the body, because the body only does this thing over and over. The body, if you imagine as an NPC, it's just programmed to do the similar types of things over and over, because there's so many different simulations all over, and this is what we call planets. So this is what we think of, but they're all Earth. They're all simulations. They're all very similar to what we're going through. And when we connect with the body, we think that everything's happening over and over. And to me, the boredom thing, I think I have a problem when I hear that more these days, because I know that demons say that. I know that fallen angels trick people and say that, because to demons, now they're programmed to not have morals the way that we do, so that good and evil doesn't exist to them, that they're bored and they want any existence. So it doesn't matter what existence they have, but they just want something. So that's where, like, the boredom thing, it rubs me the wrong way, because I feel like someone's getting that information from an unnatural source that is telling them, and it sounds correct there, because they're saying you're an infinite being. But if I'm an infinite being, then why don't I know everything right now? Not that I'm not an infinite being. I think I can become infinite, but I think I was born into this body for the first time ever, and that I have to grow just like plants grow. If you imagine, if you started a garden and you just left it, and you come back 100 years later, imagine how much larger everything would just be. It would just keep growing. That's what we are. So when I start to understand how nature actually operates, and that it's the darkness and the cold that keeps these plants from growing, then I look at the trauma even though the trauma slingshotted me to where I am, if I didn't need that because we were living in a loving society that was tailored around helping and growing, then we couldn't even imagine the possibility of where we would be in 100 years. It would be a golden age very quickly if we all just had the conscious awareness that the people in this community are having, that we would just all of a sudden it would just breed these geniuses that are working on things to entrap us, would unknowingly doing it. They would be working on things to make us better, and it would just grow exponentially very quickly, and we wouldn't need it would look like quote unquote Tartaria, how we had all that old world architecture very quickly happen uh, in a relatively short period of time not long ago, with all these cymatics and free energy and possibly flying vehicles and healing in churches and all of that. It's very possible if we are all starting from a place of love and understanding and are tailored to grow spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and not have to worry about all this trauma that we got off of us, because the trauma isn't necessary for everybody. I mean, everybody knows that one religious person, I'll say religious, but they don't even have to be religious, that is super kind and super happy and has been that way their entire life and has never really gone through anything. And they didn't need the darkness to get to where they are. And I think that those who have really project that onto everybody else. They project their own perspective and say, no, everyone needs to go through darkness to get to the light. But uh, in my understanding, it's not actually necessary.
So, okay, let's play with this idea off of that. My wife has been looking into a lot of stuff about generational healing and stuff like that, and she's looking back in her timeline to family, her family tree and everything, and she's finding amazing connections and where certain themes clearly must have started in her family line, and every generation has these same characteristics, and these things happen, these events, these certain traumas and everything. Excuse me. Um, so let's extrapolate that further. And this is also to bring up Randall Carlson again. It's interesting because I originally had this idea from something he talked about. I'll quickly talk about that. He put this out on Halloween, I think last year, the year before, and he was using all of the knowledge that he's had from, learning symbolism and ancient history and all of his work with comets and planetary impact and all that. He sufficed basically with a lot of amazing examples that Halloween around the world, no matter what they call it, seems to be, with all the different symbolism, this day of remembrance for when we lost everybody, and this moment in time that, whether we consciously remember it or not, on a subconscious level, we went through a worldwide, or at least maybe a hemispheric trauma that affected everybody. And imagine the ripples, the emotional ripples, the lifestyles, the everything that you learn from a massive trauma, like an impact or a this or a that destroyed everything.
9/11.
Yes, exactly. More
On a
recently, of course.
on a more grand scale too, what you're saying.
Right. And that's interesting too, because we can go into the possible controlled man-made versions of this mentality chain reaction versus the natural ones, or maybe they weren't. Who knows? But what I'm saying is this trauma can send ripples through time and affect everything. So, man, this is interesting because maybe it isn't necessary, but even naturally, possibly, the situation was forced on us.
Right.
That we are all having to go into that darkness and that shadow work and that history, that dark, hypnotic regression about our whole society. all of us together as a family in what we went through. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. Let me go further to connect it even to Bach Saga a bit, because often all the devil words, the horns, the all of that seems to come from these old Arctic cultures that we talk about with roots of creation. And even we've talked about it with Dan on worship the last time, about how the fall seems to also could also involve this mixing of these two, this group. Think about the group that wasn't wiped out from that ice age. Think about the group this saga that the saga talks about that was trapped, surviving in these harsh, cold, awful underground, subterranean, in most cases, conditions for, hypothetically, the saga says, thousands of years. So what kind of trauma did that group also bring with them into the rest of the world after that point in time? That's an interesting point too.
Yeah, and that's a great point, what you said with the ancestral stuff, because it's always repeating until it gets to where we are, and we're the
Until we
ones that
work it
have to
out.
transmute it. Yeah,
Damn
and
right.
and what's going to happen now is that our children are going to grow up better, and then their children, and then their children, and we're not placing all of that negativity on them. We're teaching them how to start civilization, how to live life. So it's when you start to understand it, like you just said, when you're studying your ancestral stuff, and you're realizing that you're transmuting stuff that isn't your own doing, that you're put in situations. And this goes back to how the seraphim are the ones that weave the DNA strands. It's the coming together and falling apart, the coming together and falling apart, and that you don't have to deal with your own responsibility if you do certain things for this matrix system, that the DNA can be weaved in your favor to where it's going to affect. You can put the blame on your great great grandchild, and everybody else commits to it, and then it goes to that person, and then you just you kill them in a sacrifice. You put all of it on there. That's really what happens when we have this incest that goes on between these people, and they sacrifice their children. I mean, that's what it's really all about, is clearing up the karmic debt all in one or two kids. So there's a lot of different ways that they do that through the satanic stuff, through the Luciferian stuff or whatever, but it's all giving over to the seraphim what helps the seraphim, so that you can do what you want to do without facing the repercussions. And the man-made thing, like you're saying, that something came in here and it forced this to happen. And what it is the parasites. It's this parasitic class. It is the demons, because parasites are demons. If you look at the characteristics of the both of them, that it's exactly the same. So I think the parasites are the physical representation of demons, just the way we're the physical representation of God. So there's, when we start to understand that it's all inside of us, we spiritually know this, that everything's inside of us, we're the only one here. But when we actually clean out our entire being, when enough of us, anyway, the chosen, the elect, whatever the name is, clean out our vessels fully, then all the parasites die. And there's no more having to transmute. Well, I mean, once we finish transmuting the stuff, once we figure it all out, then we do away with all that completely.
So this is interesting too. You could say that right now we have to deal with light and dark, right? And it's interesting also to point out that we have been in the age of Pisces, which I love seeing the representation of Pisces in the yin yang, and this idea of the two fish being, equal opposites. A lot of stuff we can go into in that direction, but just the idea that right now we're in that dualistic mentality because we're still dealing with all that old trauma, and perhaps that's some hope for people that eventually It doesn't have to be that way. And I guess I'm speaking from the heart here, because for a long time I've been one of those people that have constantly felt like balance is the be all and end all to everything. That the light and dark balanced, it's, man, if it is a psyop, not a psyop, but if it's what we're being drawn towards on purpose, perhaps in some cases, man, it's a good argument.
Well, it's because the
Yeah.
darkness.
It's the best
The
argument.
0 point.
That's how the
Yeah.
darkness will exist. Because if we only have light, then the darkness doesn't exist. So those who live in the darkness, they trick us into thinking that there has to be a balance between light and dark. But when you start to, and it's conspiracy theory and all, but when you start to look into the moon, I really think that our sun is the lesser light that's talked about in the Bible, and that there was a more large sun, it was more grand, that went around the outer ring that is now frozen, that we call Antarctica. I think that it being called Tierra del Fuego in the 1500s is very significant, and that dinosaurs and giants lived down there. I think of the Ottoman Empire and their logo with the large sun and then the smaller spherical object that's partially blocking it. I see that after I start to have this idea that, oh yeah, there was a very large sun on the outer ring, and then there was a smaller sun, so there was always light. But now we are given this false light, this moon that gives false light, and it's actually colder in the moonlight than it is in the shade. And if you take a microscope, the same way if you take a microscope from the sun and you can burn something, well, if you take a microscope in the moonlight, it'll make it colder. So the moon is actually producing a cold light. And it's not a reflection. Yeah, because if it was a reflection, it would still be it wouldn't be colder than the darkness. So I think it's a very fake object that is there, that is probably their home base. And to some sense, I think maybe we did go to the moon, but it's within our atmosphere, and it's not that far up, and that we saw that it's a ship, and that is when it was this takeover by the parasites, because these parasites, they broke in here. I call them fallen angels. So I know that demons are parasites, but I think that the fallen angels are working in conjunction with the parasites, with these mantids and grays, that I was always abducted by them. It was always human military, which I think were the fallen angels or the Nazis, you can, or the Nordics, if you want to call them that, or whatever these space brothers they were called at one point. They're the fallen angels. And then you have the mantids, the grays, the insectoids, the spider beings that are talked about, the ant-like beings. I think they're the parasites. So it's like these insects / amphibian beings in conjunction with these humans, or they look and act as if they're human. They are the ones who are doing this, and it's because these fallen angels don't want to face judgment, so that they let in something much more evil than they knew actually existed. They didn't know the magnitude that was coming. They thought there was good and bad, where good and bad is subjective. It's a perspective thing. But good and evil is a morality thing that is judged by us in our consciousness. We all have this moral compass. And
natural law, man.
Yeah, and they've made our moral compasses all out of whack, and we have to recalibrate that by going through the awakening process, the purifying process, getting rid of bad habits, and then reintegrating things. Like you were saying, you're kind of merging things in a sense, because I give up coffee and then I start to drink tea, and it's kind of similar, but it's better for me. I haven't switched that myself, but there are many instances where, yeah, Mimi does, but there's many instances, like when I stopped smoking weed, then I had Delta 8, and then I got off of Delta 8 with nothing, because I was just weaning down. But there's always an alternative to the bad thing that we're doing. There's something slightly better for us.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, can you share screens on here? I've never
Yeah,
shared.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to
So
share something
if
with
you
you
put
real
it
quick.
up, yeah, then I can put it up. So go ahead and do your thing, and I'll throw it up on the screen.
Oh, okay. So you want me to just send it to you?
No, if do you have?
I have a share
Yeah,
button right
yeah.
here.
Use
Okay.
that, and then I'll have to put it on the screen now. I'll
Oh, okay, I
approve it.
got you. All right. Okay, share this one.
All right. Let's see.
Do you see that news article?
Surprise! Earth's atmosphere
Oh,
extends far beyond the moon. Oh, surprise!
yeah. So this is like this. I'm probably not the only source, but I remember seeing this a couple months back, and so I immediately was like, "Oh, okay. So what are they trying to account for and make up for now? Like
Yeah.
suddenly, now the Earth's atmosphere just goes out way further than we thought it did."
Yeah, you don't need to go through the radiation belt to get there. The radiation belt doesn't exist. It's the firmament. Well, maybe it is radiation. Maybe but that's what stops us. Like I was saying, maybe we're cells and we can't leave this human body that we're in. We can't take it with us in that way. So I think that there may be some kind of radiation that. So I don't know that the firmament is like glass. I think
Dude,
that it's like energy.
I will say that one of the many reasons why I'm just willingly and openly on the fence about all of it is because I've seen the video footage of Project Fishbowl or Operation Fishbowl. That's some of the scariest shit I've ever
I haven't seen the
seen,
video evidence.
dude. And I mean, of course, now I'll probably search for it and have a real hard time trying to find it,
Right.
but
I'll look
there
on
were
BitChute, I guess.
yeah. So years ago, there was some video footage of it, and it just looks like fire covering the sky when it goes off. It's as if the nuke hits something that it can't do anything about it. It can't get through, or it's nuts.
Well,
It's
I've gone
fucking
through
scary.
it in my dreams. That's when I go through it. Like I'll be almost asleep and someone will bring me back to, they'll wake me up and I'll be looking at the firmament, the energetic boxes, yeah, the energetic grid, and then I'll wake up and so it's imprinted in my memory because I was just staring at it with my third eye. So like I know that there's a firmament. Now, how it actually operates, I think it's just another energy level. I think we're more dense. We're too dense to go
Yes.
out.
Dude, I was just gonna say because we were already talking about the fractal nature. We're talking about the a bigger sun. We're talking about the interplanetary the objects that come through, how they could be on this grander scale of reality from our perspective. It goes right along with all that.
Yeah.
It just follows suit like that. It
And
makes a lot of sense.
have you heard about the lakes underground that they have submarines where they're under the water and they run into something that they can't get through? It's
Dude.
another layer under us. Or maybe it's that same layer that we're talking about, but it's the energy that we can't get through.
It could be like I think
Deep
someone
space.
put that video up with a quote on the screen
Yeah.
like, "Is this the bottom of the firmament?" Like, yeah, maybe it could be.
Or it's the top of our sky, either one.
Did you see that movie As Above, So Below?
Oh no.
It's a diamond in the rough because it's one of a billion found footage horror films that's they're mostly garbage. This one, not only for horror fans, it was like legit really good horror, but also it was very religious and intense in the spiritual sense, and they didn't phone it in when it came to like some really deep metaphors about shit. And the very end, they're about to get mauled by God knows what in the darkness of these underground catacombs, and they finally are able to pry open this hole in the ground. And once they finally do, or no, they have to push it down. They're pushing it down against the ground, and it's pushing through, and they're pushing through, and finally what happens is they come up out of a manhole. And it was
Yeah.
just, I love the visual. I thought the metaphor was perfect.
Like when you dig a hole to China.
Yeah. And those pools at the very bottom of the ocean are very weird. And they found those in the deepest parts of the ocean. It's
Yeah.
not just randomly. It's at the Marianas Trench and in other areas that are 7-8 miles down. It's nuts.
Yeah.
And it's very creepy to see that because it's similar to the fishbowl footage. It's like, well, why can they not descend further? They're a powered machine that is not able to pass through this liquid form. And we're not talking the Great Salt Lakes that, things will slowly drown, It's
Right.
nuts. It doesn't look real. But
Yeah.
that the Operation Fishbowl footage keeps me on edge, along with the Go Fast rocket footage. I'm sure you've
Yeah,
seen
when
that
it hits this firmament, then it's just like floating in no man's land.
Now, I don't know if there's like an official, I like to say excuse, but I'm not sure if there's an official explanation for what happened. I'm sure maybe someone would say, oh yeah, that's when the fuel cut off and the
Right.
rocket couldn't go anymore. And the air was so thin, there
You
was
hear the
no
dink.
The
inertia
balloons
to
are
keep it
holding it up.
going.
Yeah.
But I mean, granted, the problem is a lot of times I feel like even on the hardcore flat earth side, I don't know. I don't know how you take this, but I feel like we still we can't just throw out as reasons or answers these things that already, that I know we don't buy them, but they do have official excuses for, like the Go Fast rocket. I don't know what the official story for that is. And there probably is one. We can discount it. We can say it's full of shit, but I'd like to know it. And
Yeah.
I'd like to know who said it, who came up with it.
Right.
Was it just the amateur on the ground that launched the rocket? Who is telling us
Right.
why this isn't important footage? You know what I
Right.
mean?
See,
And
the
maybe that's a general statement. I would like to be
Yeah.
skeptical, not for the sake of being
Right.
skeptical, but to get to the bottom of it. Because a lot of times in our community, we love to assume one thing
Right.
and run wild.
As long as it's the opposite of the mainstream narrative.
Yes, especially, and a lot of times we're right. I'll give us that.
We're right
credit
that there's
most
something
of the
fishy,
time.
but
There's
we
always
never
something
really come up
fishy.
with the right answer.
Yeah, you know
It's
how I like to say that, like, when I'm tripping and you're talking about the trip itself, but you realize you're actually talking about life and you can't name it. You can't see it. You can't say
Right.
it. You can describe it. And it's the same thing with all the conspiracy stuff.
Yeah.
Something's fucky, but we never have the right amount of information to really know. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen the ice wall footage. It looks like an ice wall, but it also would be described as a wall looking thing if it was just a giant continent with a ton of ice on it.
Yeah,
You
I
know what
don't
I
think
mean?
it's an ice wall. Like I said, I
I
think
know.
that I think there's a giant patch of ice in a circle around us because, like I said, the larger sun isn't there anymore. So
Absolutely. And I
so
think
it's
that's
frozen.
a very good, I think the reasoning is pretty good on the flat earth or whatever you want to call that side of the argument. There's a lot there to explore.
Yeah.
But I don't like, and this is just a random tangent, I guess. I just don't like, I'm on my soapbox. I don't like when I see 30 seconds of the Antarctic coast
Right.
where replace the ice with sand and it looks just like any other quote unquote continent. So it's like, until we can have multiple battery packs on that camera and I can have a continuous footage for 3 days straight when their boat is forced to, like, this thing is stretching and interacting with continents geographically that it shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There has to be some way to physically get out there and go, oh, wait, it stops. Oh, it starts going this way. Oh, let's fall. Oh, shit. It seems to be a enclosed continent, or not. But until then, it's a shoreline. It ain't an ice wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a high thing of ice. I mean, it is a wall of ice. It doesn't mean it's the firmament, though.
Yeah, that's the problem. I hate
Yeah.
when, see, It's like, no, I don't see, because National Geographic aired this. They're showing a quote unquote ice wall too. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe that's
See,
just random, but
the only thing with me is I just say, because no one will disagree with this, that observational science tells us that we live on a flat surface. Uh, uh, I mean, that's what the flat earthers are all about, is observational science, that you can do these practices at home and you can test it, and they're 100% correct, and you can get a camera and zoom in and you can see things further than you're supposed to be. You can discount snipers accounting for the curvature of the earth, because they're just accounting for the curvature of light, because light bends. There's different things that I can really understand, that it's observational science. I can see that the sun's moving, I can see the stars are moving, and if we were on the outside of a ball spinning, there's no way that the sky would be the clock that it is for us.
yeah,
Because stars are in the same place, the same day, year after year, decade after decade, season after
Right, and
season.
they're going like
Yeah, it's
this.
on a set thing, and there would be stars that we have never seen before that would be under us if we were, I mean, so there's a couple weird things, but it's really, to me, I've never seen the outside of it, and I honestly don't think that we could, but I think that it's all projection that's on there. So I think
right,
that
yeah,
if you were to take a picture of an area, that no matter what the some people say that if you do it with a circular camera, that it'll appear to be circular. Like, yeah, that's true. But if you just take a picture with a square camera and then you go and crop it and you just cut out parts of it, you're never going to get the full thing on it, because we can't get high enough to see the full thing. So then you just have to go off of observational science. It's the only thing that you can actually go off of, and observational science tells us that it's flat. So
So let me ask you this. Have you had a chance to talk to any like really in-depth professional astrology people and ask them about that? Because I hear that all the time. Like, hey, the sky would not be like this if we, and but of course we have a whole line of like really intelligent people even in our community that aren't flat earthers, that are very attuned and intelligent when it comes to astrology. I'm curious, do you know what the ins and outs of that argument is, like the back and forth? Because that would be something I would really like to hear. And I think we are about to have a flat earth, round earth debate on Legit Bat, I think next week or something like that. I'll let everybody know. But it might be good if I can get somebody on there that is really well adapted to astrology, but also doesn't buy flat earth. I would think that might be a good area to tear
Yeah.
apart and go into
yeah,
more, because like there's a number of people I could point to that I have trusted a lot with their astrological information. Like just to shamelessly plug David Matheson. I
yeah,
really
he's great.
enjoy his intense intelligence about this topic. I don't I don't think he subscribes to a flat earth at all, and I'd be very curious what his answer would be to flat earthers saying the sky would not be like this. It wouldn't be the clock that it is. Where's the contention? That's
Yeah,
what I'm wondering. And I'm wondering, I doubt that that would solve anything.
yeah,
I bet it would raise about 6 more questions and bring up
Hmm.
a bunch of other arguments that we didn't know were there,
right.
like, oh, well, that's because those kinds of astrologers, they believe that, I don't
Yeah,
know. We got to,
Yeah, it's
it
almost
hasn't
like
been
you need a
sussed
few
out
of
yet.
them.
This is
yeah,
also observational science,
yeah.
because
So
observational science to me says that from our perspective, we can't tell the shape of the earth, not that it's
yeah,
flat. Because
Right.
I think observational science, it's also important to acknowledge, the whole we know nothing thing. You have to
yeah,
trace back and accept that your surroundings, your physical surroundings are probably telling you that too,
right.
Yeah.
because deep down the spiritual message is, hey, you don't know anything, calm it down.
And it
go
doesn't
back to square
matter.
one.
Right.
So on the physical level, the world is probably also saying, hey, take a wild guess, but you don't get to know from your perspective. How
Right. Yeah.
about that conundrum?
Yeah, that's what I meant, that observational science only allows us to see it as flat.
Yes,
There
absolutely.
and rendering. There's no other possibility that just on the other side, when you zoom in, then there's more, but it's rendering, it's quantum physics. It's moving so quickly that it's not there to us until we go look at it. So, and
Right.
you can only see it flat. So
And of
I
course, there's
also
a lot of great work from flat earthers on the angular perception on
yeah.
the human eye and everything, and how it doesn't have to be a horizon. They've done lab studies and things where they've shown that that happens to eyesight over distance.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, a lot still needs to be sussed out, and I
Right.
think
Everything becomes circular. Ryan Zem, I had him on episode 52 of my podcast, and he's actually trekking to the North Pole right now by foot.
right.
So he said, and he came up with this, that there's horizontal refraction. If you look up into the sky, that everything will appear to be round because of the refraction from the lighting. Well, also the reverse is true. If you're to go all the way up, if you're to continue to go all the way up and look down, that eventually everything would be rounded off. And it doesn't have anything to do with the human eye. It just
Oh,
has to do with how sight works in general. It could be a camera would do this, that it's, what do you call it? Do you remember?
whoa.
Oh, I can find it for you in my notes.
Yeah.
Ocular something.
No, it's
No.
some sort of
I think it might be
refraction.
horizontal refraction. I think I might have said the wrong
Yeah,
thing the
I
first
think
time,
you
but
did say the wrong thing at
he
first.
deemed it something. He had physicists look at this, and they became flat earthers
No
right away
shit.
after it, because
Yeah, it's
uh,
creepy, man.
yeah, everything eventually just rounds off. That's just how we
So
see everything.
there's
Light bends. That's
Right.
how it works.
astronomical refraction, terrestrial refraction,
Right.
and then horizontal
Yeah. So
refraction.
the first two that she said, they're the ones that are scientifically accepted, and the horizontal refraction is the one that he found, and then he's this crazy mathematician and physicist, self-taught, who then sent this out to someone in Brazil and someone in Germany, and they checked his work and said it's accurate, and they became flat earthers because of it.
That's nuts. That's like some Google Earth high up guy left Google and is now a
Yeah, I
flat
just saw
earther.
that today. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it like a year ago too. So I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
not a new story. I don't know the guy's name, but I don't know. Is it a psyop? Who fucking knows? But like,
Yeah.
it is interesting to even hear the truther conspiracy community that doesn't buy flat Earth still using like referencing the flat Earth Society in their insults and comments about it. And a lot of times they don't even realize that they're describing like a known psyop, that
Mhm.
like the flat earth society that has literal tax write-offs and it's like a church,
Hmm.
like that is a real problem, because what they have as their images still to this day are the floating disc in space, like the old silliness.
Oh
And
wow.
that's
Like
what
that
they
show.
so you
Yeah.
see a lot of like the hard hitting flat earth stuff that like even I will be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like all the quotes that they have, right? The Flat Earth Society will take all that those hard hitting quotes and just slap them on this old,
Ridiculous
obviously
model.
bogus earth stuff. I'm behind that 100%. I've seen it. I see it everywhere, especially it's on TikTok more than anything.
Oh yeah.
You cannot get a lot of like at least controversial flat earth shit on there.
Yeah.
You can, I'm sure, but for the most part, it's all hashtag flat earth society and they're showing fucking flying discs and stuff. It's pretty
Wow.
intense.
Yeah, it's to me the planets, what they are they're the seven main transgressors as described in the Book of Enoch. They're fallen angels that they're locked in chains for 10,000 years, made to worship the sun, and they're just they're orbiting the sun. So it says it in different words, and when we look at words instead of the energy behind the words,
Mm.
we get confused about things, but it's been described that that's what they are, and why they affect us in the same way. And Nomad just said soul lure system, which I love that because they're luring souls here. But the way that the energies affect us when we're born and all that is because we're taking on that ancestral trauma because they are our ancestors. And however it aligned, we take on pieces of them because the seraphim weaved it into our DNA because of when and where we are born at a certain time and location. So it is God is in a triangle above everything. Then there's a space, the abyss, which that is what we call space, where they are worshiping the sun. They are in orbit around the sun. And then there's the bottom of a pyramid, or a trapezoid it would be because it's a flat top that exists. And then inside of that is a rounded top where we are inside of. So that's what all the things that I've seen in all of my different meditations, psychedelic trips, going to sleep and remembering, and like being woken up right away. Between all of those different things, that is all the information that I gathered. And also the visions I had while reading the Book of Enoch were super intense, and his describing the shape of the earth when he was taken outside of it.
When you described your dream process of like breaking through the firmament, I wanted to ask you, is it really noticeable? Do you ever break through and it's like there's friction, or there's like, is there a moment there that's unique when you break through it?
No, you just go through, and once I go through, I don't know. There's nothing I can bring back. It's like when I see it and then I go through it and then that's it. I'm gone.
So check it out. It brought to mind the sensation that I've received in my body doing dimethyltryptamine, and a lot of people, you can look it up, how a lot of people describe a high-pitched sound, a static thing or whatever.
Sounds like taking off.
Yes, it does, and it feels like you have to literally break through something. It feels that way, and we always reference that. We say, well, when I broke through,
Right.
And it just reminded me, because we were talking about how, the fractal nature of the shape of things, and how, it's like another body, so it could be, the DMT is sending you out of your firmament or something like that. It's on a lower scale. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just random.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
We've covered quite a bit of stuff today. We've definitely focused in on some flat earth stuff, but I think it's on my mind because I got that debate coming up, which I am remaining impartial. I will be the one making sure no one's full of shit.
Oh, you're going to be running the show?
No, I'm not running it, but I'm going to self-proclaim. I'm going to tell legit bat, like, I want to be involved in the moderation process, and I would like maybe have a big a dry erase board behind me or something. Like, well, let's go back to the board here because 15 minutes ago you said it never happens in debates. It needs to happen. That's why debates are usually just for fucking show.
Yeah, debates are tough. I'm gonna before we hang up here, I'm trying to pull up this photo. Let's see if it'll you can't see it. I have a photo of the grid.
I can feel it.
And you can't see it on the computer. I have it on my phone here, but I'm not going to be able to bring it up. I can share it, but you can't see it.
Not as well as you can on the phone.
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think that you'll be able to see it. So let's see. I'll share. Hold on a sec. Let me pull it up. Let's see. We'll do. I guess it's this. So.
Is it?
Yeah, you're not going to be able to see it.
I don't know.
I don't see anything.
Yeah, do you see that? Welcome to Indian Mound. Is that up? No. Oh, that's not even the right screen that I'm sharing.
Oh.
Okay, hold on a second.
I see blackness. Is that what I'm supposed to see?
Well, kind of.
More of a spiritual question, son.
All right, let's see. What was just happening? Why didn't that work?
I don't know.
All right, I'll just share my entire screen then. Let's do that.
That works. That's what I had to do too. Definitely different than Zoom.
Why
Nope,
is,
definitely not working.
why is it not working? Okay, here we go. Share. Okay. Let me pull this up. Yeah, it's, I don't know. Can you see that?
I mean, I could see the black screen.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
that's
is like when I tried to show the UFO I caught on my phone. It's
Yeah, they're
you
like,
gotta be
nope.
looking at my phone screen like 3 inches away to make out the pixels, you know?
yeah, that's what it is, the pixelations. But
Well,
I
I'll
mean,
tell you,
I
man,
do
I've
have
seen it
some good
too.
photos of it, but
I'll tell you this, with this mind, again, I say it often that I'm kinda teetering on the edge of trying psychedelics again, maybe like one last hurrah of some kind to go back and say goodbye. But,
oh, nice.
I will say that I would like to also be thinking of this when I try it again, because I wasn't thinking of firmaments or anything like that when I used to look up at the stars on mushrooms or
Right.
acid, and all of a sudden the stars suddenly, like the lights coming off of them started to not be lights, they were connecting lines. And all of a sudden all the stars were like ceiling tiles with with a tiny bit of light creeping out of all the
Just like
corners
we
and
were talking
everything.
about earlier with the little points and the lines.
Right, yeah, that was a big
Hmm.
thing after I came out of a lot of my psychedelic trips. I would take black construction paper and jab a bunch of holes in it and hold it up to a light and be like, "See, friends,
This is what it looked like.
these are us. Every one of those is us, okay?" And you take the fucking illusion away, and there's God. And everyone would be like, "You took too much acid. None of that's right. All of it's silly. I giggled for 8 hours. I don't know what you're talking about." That's mostly
Someone
what
else I know, when they came out of a trip, they were like, "I have to explain it to you." It's like everything is matter, but nothing matters. Nothing matters, but it's all matter though.
Yeah, that was like that was like one of the most important statements that came out of my very first trip ever was
Yeah.
mind over matter. Oh my God, that's not just a saying, like that has so much
Mind
weight
over
to
matter. Yes.
Yeah, it's
It
wild.
is all like
Mind
up
over matter,
here.
folks.
It is
And
all up there.
and it all matters, but none of
But
it
it doesn't matter.
matters.
It doesn't
But none
matter
of it
what shape
matters.
the earth is, but I guess it matters, but it doesn't.
It's the paradox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
But
think
that's something to continue for sure the next time, because that paradox is so real and so natural, yet we are kind of fighting against that idea of balance being a natural state. So maybe we can explore that further the next time.
Yeah, for sure. So do you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at the Deep Share on Twitter and follow my rantings on there, and the Deep Share podcast on Instagram, where I do most of my social media stuff. My podcast is on YouTube and Odyssey, and soon to be Rockfin, with a Patreon coming with all kinds of cool stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, that's me.
All right, and you guys can find me. You can see back here. I got the little board. It says "Godcast: The Goodness Over Darkness" podcast. And all the stuff's in the description. And I actually have Mimi's stuff in the description. Finally,
That's
all
right.
of her stuff. So.
Oh, and I might as well announce too that you've inspired us guys, and I finally got Kate on board to do a show with me, and it's going to be a Patreon show called either Deep Healing or Healing Deep. We haven't decided yet, but it's going to be kind of like a spinoff of the Deep Share, but me and her talk about our personal healing processes and what we've been through and what we're still working through. Kind of a open book approach, hoping it'll inspire people.
Oh wow, that's awesome! I'm glad that we were able to inspire you guys.
Hell yeah, man, you did. I appreciate both of you.
Deep healing, I like it. Maybe eventually, maybe when I do have the balls to to tell my story one day, deep healing would be the place to go for that.
Well, and
maybe eventually we can have some guests. And maybe eventually we can have some guests, who knows? But yeah, it's just the beginning. And I've been reluctant about charging money for anything, to be honest. And I just want to establish myself in this community as something viable. And I want more time to put into this, because I wish I had found this years ago, man, because I should have been doing this a long time ago. And I reach back into my childhood, and there's videotapes of me and my friends, and audio tapes, pretending to have our own radio shows constantly. And I've heard my wife say too many times that, they say that you got to look back and find what you really love doing as like a little kid. And that's what you were probably meant to do and all that. And I just wish I had been doing it earlier, but I'm happy to be doing it now. And I just want to be able to do it more. And honestly, I want to try to make some money off of this so I can reduce how much I work for other people for other people's goals. And that's as humble as I can get. I'm asking for money. Yeah. That's at the end of the day, it is what it is, but I'm just trying to make something out of it.
Yeah,
So,
we had a commenter here, Justin Mike. He said, "That's so neat and awesome, Andy and y'all." So,
thanks, man.
Back
Thank
in
you.
the 80s, my best friend's dad would have us go stand outside of CVS or whatever with a camcorder and a microphone, and we would interview just people, old and young, and we'd be like, do you think that rock and roll leads to devil worshiping? What do you think about the
yeah, you told me about this.
Yeah, what do you think about immigration at the border? Like it was like the same stuff we kind of talk about now, but but back then. So
and I always wanted to do sports broadcasting when I was growing up. Yeah,
dude, I was always trying to make movies. Dude,
Destiny.
okay, how about this? My
I
non-claim
have
to
it somewhere. I
fame,
have to find it.
total non-claim to fame, was years before Scary Movie was ever a thing. My friends were trying to keep up with me, but no one was a good enough actor. And I had a movie that I was making called Wall Running from the Blair Witch on Friday the 13th, Scream Because I Know What You Did Last Halloween. It was just, I was an idiot, but it was.
Oh, well, hey, they probably stole your idea.
They did,
because it got put in the atmosphere, it got put in the 4D realm,
Exactly.
and then they made it into fruition.
Dude, I have thought about that way too many times. Like I heard that in the movie Waking Life, like 2 decades ago. The idea of as soon as thoughts are out there, suddenly you see innovations popping up unconnected to, disconnected from each other at the same time around the world.
Well,
As
it's
soon as the
actually,
thoughts are out there.
in my experience, it's not disconnected. That someone is siphoning us
Right.
off when we go to sleep. That's a whole thing I don't want to get into.
You take, well, at least a general perspective on it. Just the idea
it
that
seems
it
like it's
connected.
unconnected. Yeah.
Right. It seems like it, but it's, it's all there for us to grab at, It's
Right.
fucking mind blowing. But
Yeah.
well, yeah.
All right. Well,
has
this
been
was
awesome.
Yeah, this has been so much fun. So we'll say goodbye to our audience. Goodbye, everybody. We'll talk
Thanks
to
for
you later. Make
checking it
sure
out.
See ya later.
like, share, comment, subscribe on both of our stuff. And
All of our stuff.
thank you for stopping by.